As an autistic advocate, there's a question I get all the time. How do you stop autistic burnout? Well, on this video, I'm going to share with you my top ways to avoid autistic burnout. Let's go. Welcome, my friend. So good to see you. I'm Orion Kelly, that autistic guy, and I'm all about helping you increase your understanding, acceptance, and appreciation of the autistic community. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, I'd be delighted if you'd join my amazing community simply by hitting that subscribe button, subscribing to the YouTube channel and joining my autistic community, just one little click away. All right, focus, peeps, because it's time to talk about some of the most effective ways you can avoid autistic burnout. And to recap, just briefly, autistic burnout is an intense mental, physical, or emotional exhaustion. Autistic burnout can result in a loss of skills, motivation, or even an ability to achieve anything. Yeah, you really want to avoid it. So, how do you avoid autistic burnout? Well, here's some of my top tips. My first tip to avoid autistic burnout is mindfulness. Now, I get it, staying present and focusing on each moment can be difficult for an autistic person. I totally can relate to that. I totally understand it. But if you can push through that, the practice of mindfulness is one of the top ways to avoid autistic burnout. I don't want you to get put off by the words mindfulness or the practice of meditation. Don't let those words or those thoughts or those feelings or those judgments get in the way of something that is actually really powerful. Practicing mindfulness, practicing some form of meditation. And I know autistic people can get hung up on these non-scientific, non-black and white concrete things. I get it. You think, no, that's just spiritual stuff. It's not. Think about it in practice, in black and white. It's the simple art of focusing on the now. The simple art of focusing on the present moment. To, in effect, allow and acknowledge when you're focusing your energy on things that aren't the present moment, but in doing so, allowing them to go. Just let them go. In my own personal experience, I find the practice of mindfulness is easier said than done, but it's the practice, see? It's not the mastery, it's the practice. Just in practicing it, in providing yourself opportunities to try and just recenter yourself and live in the moment. It doesn't matter how good or bad you do, just the practice of that will, I guarantee you, help to avoid autistic burnout. Because autistic brains, in my experience, they can be manic, right? Fast-paced, constantly on the go. Even hardwired sometimes, in my experience, to focus on past, present, and future at the same time. What I'm saying is the practice of mindfulness and, if possible, the practice of meditation, even for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes a day, is absolutely a hack to avoid autistic burnout. The next tip for avoiding autistic burnouts is all about setting personal limits. What do I mean by that? Maybe not what you think. In fact, I'm talking about understanding, but also acknowledging and protecting your personal limitations. So as autistic people, and I've spoken about this quite a lot in other videos, we're in a constant battle between the stresses and the demands placed upon us, be that as autistic kids or, in my experience, more and more as an autistic adult. The battle between those stresses and demands placed upon you and your capacity to meet those demands and stresses. So clearly, if you never take the time to understand, identify, acknowledge, protect your own personal limitations, more often than not, your capacity won't be able to meet the demands placed upon you. This doesn't mean you should not seek to improve yourself, personal growth. I'm not saying that. Of course you should. But I'm talking about in general terms, you will still know your limitations and you should protect those. As a rule, as an autistic person, because the ramifications could be autistic burnout. Look at it like this. If you don't understand or identify or acknowledge or protect your personal limits, you don't know them, then they're going to be exceeded. And then you're going to experience more overwhelming situations, more overload, more shutdowns, more meltdowns. Now, if you experience more of those, what's the cumulative effect? Autistic burnout. Oh, and one last thing on this, and that's actually really important. If hearing me talk about this has in some way filled you with some sort of weird guilt as an autistic person, it's because the people around you, whether they're family or friends or the outside world, when you say you have personal limits, try to shame you for not trying. If you have a medically diagnosed neurodevelopmental disability and you identify your personal limits and you protect them, and people shame you because you're just lazy or trying to get out of it, or you just don't want to grow or learn, then you need to tell them, no, I am an autistic person. I know where currently my capacities are. And I know that my capacities currently would not be able to meet that particular demand. Maybe they will in the future, but currently they won't. So I'm going to stand up for that. I'm going to protect that. Another top tip to avoid autistic burnout is, ding, 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 stop masking. As autistic people, we feel compelled. We feel the need from a very early age to find a way to fit in, to mask our true autistic selves, to suppress that, and to present a persona that can somehow find a place in a neurotypical world not built for autistic people. And in my view, masking for autistic people has become mandatory in many aspects of life. Not because that's what we wanted to do, not because that's our choice, but because still the wider community at large still lacks some basic understanding, appreciation, and acceptance of the autistic community. So we are left with no choice but to try and present as not autistic. But at what cost? What is the cost of autistic people masking, suppressing their true autistic selves over their entire lifetime in most aspects of their life? For one, the mental health costs for autistic people from masking can be profound and significant. And in my view, the mental manifests into the physical. There's no way you get out of this. If you continue to mask in the majority of your life, in the majority of aspects of your life, you will burn out. Another top way to avoid autistic burnout is to stop masking. The dilemma. But if I do that, I might not burn out, but I might burn bridges in my life. But the clear positive to the equation is if you do choose to stop masking, you will more often than not avoid autistic burnout. In my opinion, one of the best ways to avoid autistic burnout is regular alone time. I'm talking building regular alone time into your daily schedule, into your daily routine. I'm an autistic dad of an autistic son. I'm also an autistic husband of a neurotypical wife. And we also have a 3-year-old. So I know finding alone time can be really hard. I reckon I'm a pretty good example of if you do it, it's good, but if you want to give me some excuse like you don't have time or you can't get it, well, I mean, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm an autistic guy, you can build it in. I'm certainly not going to try and argue against people who go, well, hey, alone time is good for everyone. Well, of course, me time is good for everyone. I'm talking about people with a diagnosed disability who can use alone time as a tool to avoid experiences that can render them just about inoperable in life. Okay, so there's a kind of a difference here. And here's another thing. If you are just hoping or wishing or relying on spontaneous windows of opportunity for alone time to just pop up, and that's how you're avoiding autistic burnout, you're gonna fail. It's time to actually take responsibility for yourself or the autistic person in your life. Plan, schedule, put these into daily routines. Periods of time marked alone time, protected, scheduled, planned. And in my view, whether it's conscious or subconscious, getting your family to help you build into your daily routine or plan alone time really means that they're part of the process and therefore they buy into it. And not only do they accept it and just think it's part of the day, but then they also see the benefits of it, how it impacts you positively and how it impacts them. It makes everyone better because the experience with each other is better. It's a win-win. Another top tip for avoiding autistic burnout is Stim. Stim, my friends, Stim. Stimming for an autistic person, self-stimulatory behavior, is second nature. And why? Well, in my experience, I tend to stim for regulation, for self-soothing, for processing. And in fact, I tend to stim too if I feel like I'm about to melt down or shut down or go into overload or feel anxious or agitated. I would also say, in addition to stimming is second nature for autistic people. I'd also say suppressing your stimming in certain environments, in certain social situations, is also second nature. Stimming, autistic people just do it. But I reckon we also, without even knowing it sometimes, just don't do it. Just stop doing it, suppress it, because we realize I really want to do that stim, or I really want to do this thing, but I know that it's not going to go. I'm just going to try and not. And then we try to somehow internalize it. And then in the end, a lot of times we just come across looking agitated or just wriggly or wiggly, and that's a stim, either way. And then you've got parents, partners, teachers, employers, consciously or unconsciously pushing back on it or belittling it, even rejecting or banning the behavior. The problem with that is it just adds another layer of stress and trauma to the situation. Lose-lose. Stimming. Just stimming when you need to is another way you can avoid autistic burnout. This next top tip to avoid autistic burnout is all about the outdoors. Just getting outdoors, getting into nature, feeling the fresh air, the cold wind, the sun, the rain, whatever it is. Just getting out there is so powerful in avoiding autistic burnout. I don't think you actually understand how powerful it is. So just to be clear, all autistic people are different. It's an infinite spectrum. No two autistic people are the same. We all have our own individual challenges, strengths, and our own individual support and care needs. But all autistic people have some level of support and care needs. They're fluid, they fluctuate, but they're all different. If I say go for a run, you might not physically or mentally be able to do that or get yourself in the right frame of mind to do that. So you have to be specific to your own personal, not only limitations, but your own personal passions. Get out in the backyard, go for a walk, go to the beach, go for a ride, go to the zoo, go to the park, handball some chores to the autistic person in your life that are outside, do some weeding, hang out some washing, bring in the bins. Anything that gets fresh air and sun and gets you an autistic person or the autistic person in your life outdoors, I promise you, will have a beneficial impact on them. Leaving the comfort of inside and getting outside is one of the key ways you can avoid autistic burnout. This top tip to avoid autistic burnout is probably one of my absolute favorite ways to do it, and that is special interests. So as you've probably heard me talk about in other videos, in general terms, autistic people tend to have a handful of intense passions or special interests we tend to want to focus our time and energy on. Therefore, my argument is spending time on your special interests can avoid autistic burnout by doing the things you love to do. And this really works for all people. Doing what you love, doing what you're passionate about, brings peace and happiness and joy. Conversely, when there are routine or plan changes that get in the way of spending time on your special interest, that may lead to meltdowns or shutdowns or overloads. And what do they lead to? That's right, autistic burnout. So whether you're autistic or there's an autistic person in your life, embracing and prioritizing the special interests of an autistic person is another great way to avoid autistic burnout. For autistic people and newly diagnosed autistic adults, experiencing autistic burnout can be one of the most significant challenges you'll face in your life. So I hope the video has provided you with the top tips to avoid burnout, because once you're there, there's not much you can do to turn it around. If you found the video helpful, I'd be so grateful if you'd share it with your family and friends. Until my next video, thank you so much for your support. We'll talk soon.